he mentioned, Lila mentioned in a reading that one part of ourselves tries to communicate to the other part. Well, we've seen like street people sometimes talking to themselves or talking to somebody, invisible somebody. And I started doing that on the beach where I live here in Huntington Beach. You go out in the evening before bed and start talking, to myself or to life, to something. I just started talking. And at first it was rather odd and uncomfortable, or it didn't seem real. But as I did it more and more, it started to make sense. There started to be, I don't know if you want to say a response, but there's more of a relationship now with my real awareness and my personal self, the five bodies. And that's just one technique. I know Dwayne mentioned he used to do that all the time too. He used to talk to himself, or he'd do introductory talks when he was in the corporation, and he'd practice talking to the group before he went to the meeting. But he'd do a lot of talking. He doesn't do that as much because he has people in his household now, but when he was living alone there in Huntington Beach, he would talk, and also he would talk to Rebbe Zartars and Paul Twitchell and the other guides, but just being vocal, just vocally, orally, out loud talking, it helps practice when you do talk to somebody else. You've already talked to the invisible part of themselves, or to whatever, to life, or it's in a way it's a good practice. And the other thing he said in the reading, we are the exact duplicate of the is. So that's kind of interesting too. So, and another thing he said before is that all creation is it's a what do you say, delusion, or it's not real. I mean, it's all infected. Some parts of it are good, but the whole thing is actually, well, you could say negative, but it's just an illusion. So we can play off of it, but if you look at it compared to the is, it's just a distortion. Everything here, everything in creation is a distortion. It's not real, but doesn't mean we negate it. We can utilize it, use it, but it's still what it is, which is just it's not real. Compared to the isness, life is. It's nothing. It's like minute, like Lila said in the beginning. It's minute compared to this reality.
I am not saying that a person cannot or should not go through their own personal drama because of this. I am pointing to the idea and fad that when a person has a real education about what is really taking place with each one of us on this level, then they will show for sure that each of us must at some point pass from here so that we can do better for ourselves, and that there are no gods who are controlling any of the events in our lives unless we allow it to be so. Here again, everything goes back to the decider and what each of us decides for ourselves. Both of my earthly parents have passed on into whatever situations they have deemed for themselves. And when they did, I had no grief because I knew they were perfectly fine with the choices that they have made for themselves. It is not my place to question what the next person does, no matter what they do. I may use their experience as examples and a comparison for myself and anyone else to make even a better choice. But no matter what happens, they're on their own journey. The reality of the situation, as they were being my parents on this level, is what I am experiencing, but the ideas here have nothing to do with my journey, and most of all, the whole of life. So an internal attitude or situation begins to occur and can last for decades and even lifetimes because of a lack of proper understanding and most of all, real guidance and real education. There is always more to what is seen on the surface to a person leaving this realm of experience. First and foremost, a person's choice is always first, unless they give away their choice to another who is also their right to do so. Then there are situations from their past that they have created, which they have forgotten about, and now the circumstances have come together to where the person must go with the effects of their causes. There is a huge blind spot for most people, as they have been taught that this is the only life there is for them. Of course, reality is always now, and it will continue to be so no matter what humans decide. The reality I am referring to has nothing to do with the material content of this world and the minds and bodies of those having experience here. It is the unseen reality that is everything that I am pointing out. This then becomes the evidence for each of us that what we deem to be so eventually does show up. So getting back to the internal situations that can become conflict is something that everyone must deal with until they can figure themselves out according to their real awareness. It is not anything bad, per se, that a person should worship and pray to something outside of themselves, such as their gods in the clouds, but that at some point in eternity, when they have outgrown all the invented ideas they have come to know here, they will look for something real. Until then, the conflict and confusion will just continue, and possibly forever. For those who are the new students and the new leaders, they have a great education that is always taking place, whether they fully realize this or not. The human self is always be the last to know. And so one of the best things to practice is great patience with ourselves. As we continue to practice being now, we eventually see beyond what the eyes and mind are always observing. Then at some point we have arrived, and we are more than comfortable with ourselves, because we are being now. Being now the best real position to be with. But we also need the real guidance and the ongoing real education, because there is no end to what is possible. Even though what we see in front of us will soon be gone, but all the people we know and do not know will always be somewhere, and they will be where they have a right to decide to be. So all is good now. When the real guides come into our lives, they lead us past our desires and creations into the fluidness of the all-light universes of real freedom. In the meantime, while we are here, it is best to pay attention to the nightly lessons. If a person is not a new student, then they should start up immediately and take the true completeness course so that they will not have to return here again unaware. All of us do a lot of our personal thinking in symbols during our awakened hours, as it is easier to attach ourselves to an image, such as a person, place, or destination. This is one of the reasons most people cannot imagine the true reality, so they see the ultimate as an old man with a beard. Today it is basically the image of the saviors and saints, which have artistically been notified to fit the times, because the idea of man being created in the same image as their God, it only stands to reason, while people use the human image as their God, being human-like. The original idea of man being in the same image is all about the real awareness, the real you, the new you, the you-tune, that which is real light. The old term is soul, but soul is now the unconscious entity controlled by the authoritarians and the gods of men. When soul meets the real guide and is given the real connection, soul then becomes new and more aware. Most of the religions have human imagery as their front to the public instead of directing them to the true reality, the all is, which is an unimaginable beingness of all light and sound. The great reality is far beyond the mental imagery of the governor gods of the astral and the mental worlds. The great reality is far beyond the mental imagery of the governor gods of the astral and the mental worlds. Gods of the astral and the mental worlds. Because most people have decided upon a secondary image of the true reality, which is the space gods, these same people will stay for lifetimes with their decidedness and continue to worship and support something which cares little for them, because these gods of man have already proven themselves throughout human history, and to me, they do not seem that friendly at all. But the Christians think of Christ as their God, and the Buddhists look to the Buddha as their God. It is very obvious that these symbols, and it is the same with the new students and the real guides, that they look to the new wave of Rebazar, Paul, Yabul, and all the others as their representatives of the all is, until they can perceive the is for themselves. This is a vast difference between the invented ideas of the church, which entails a belief, and to have faith in a God that one hopes is there. The great trinity of the church and most religions, orders, is belief, faith, and hope. These three ideas in the spiritual realms, which are the first three levels, the material worlds and the two heavens of man. The God believers have been told what their God is, and for the most part, it's all a mystery, and he is never seen. And so even if in a person's dream visions, they will not be experiencing who their God is. I have personally dealt with the God of man, the Kalaum, and I provide a fun adventure in Book 4 of my adventurous series, The Adventures of Rebazar Taurus. First of all, the church and their paraded circus of rituals, which the Pope usually has, have no idea about the God they pray to. So how can they relate anything to their followers except the mystery idea? The history of the church is a bloodbath, but most people do a good job of pretending it isn't so. Then with the added ideas of belief, faith, and hope, what one has is a lot of invented and confirmed superstition along with mocked-up ritualistic ceremonies, like really good actors playing their part, providing an authentic hoax that was endured. It has endured the test of time. On the other hand, is a real universe of guides who provide real freedom from all the drudgery and restrictions, along with the intimidation of the rep system. These great beings have no history of destroying anything on this planet. They only provide a real benefit to those who will listen. Does anyone have anything to say about that? Tim?
That seems to be what we're trying to share is who will listen? How do you get a person's attention? What does life have to, what do the real guides have to do to get mankind's attention so that they will listen and see if what they're hearing makes sense? It seems like we're at that point, and here's Dwayne providing a lot of the hints and references, but that's what he's saying there, it seems like, is who will listen.